you ever tasted Crystal Pepsi?
No, actually I haven't. It doesn't really taste like Pepsi.
What do you think?
That's weird. Can you imagine investing millions into a product launch only to have that be your customer's first reaction? Well, that's exactly what happened with Crystal Pepsi. But here's the thing, it wasn't a terrible idea. In fact, it was kind of brilliant. So what went wrong and what can you learn from it? Let's hop in that mental time machine and roll back to the early 90s. It was the era of purity, bottled water, fat-free everything. Ugh. Remember Snackwell's cookies? They were not very tasty treats, and my mom used to buy them all the time. Let me tell you, they were definitely not Oreos. Anyway, cola sales were slumping, and Pepsi wanted to make soda feel fresh again. So they pitched a bold idea. Let's make a clear, caffeine-free version of Pepsi. A soda that looks healthier, even if it isn't. And honestly, that made sense. Shout out to Pepsi's 90s ad team because the Crystal Pepsi commercials were epic. Dramatic visuals, surreal imagery, and yes, a full-on Van Halen anthem that made you pay attention right now. Underwater Baby? Check. Snow Globe? Check. Slow-mo bike rides? Check. Absolute chaos? Checkity check, check. There is a link in the description to the full commercial. It's a ride. And hey, while you're down there, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into brands, brains, and behavioral quirks. All right, back to Crystal Pepsi. In the beginning, it worked. The ads stirred curiosity. Test markets went wild. People were calling friends, shipping six-packs across state lines. David Novak, the Pepsi exec behind the product, called it the hottest news in the category. In its first year, Crystal Pepsi made $470 million. But then it fizzled. It was even named as one of the top 10 product fails of all time by Time magazine. Not the list you want to be on. But why did something that started so great fall so flat? While curiosity can get people to try, it takes something else to make them buy again. Crystal Pepsi looked like it should taste like Sprite or 7-Up, something clean, crisp, citrusy. But it tasted like a flattish cola. People weren't just confused, they were disappointed. One reviewer said it tasted like cola-flavored candy smells. Another comment compared the aftertaste to modeling clay. And the clear bottles didn't help. It turns out soda's brown for a reason. Color protects the product. Without it, the drink degraded and started to taste like shoe polish if left in the light too long. Ooh, yikes. And you want to know the wildest part? The flavor scientist behind Crystal Pepsi, Surinder Kumar, the genius behind nacho cheese Doritos, was never told the original Pepsi formula, so he had to recreate the taste without knowing what was in it. Even Novak admitted later, would have been nice if I'd made sure the product tasted good. Yeah, just a minor detail. But this isn't just a story about taste buds. Here is where our brains come in. Let me explain with a childhood story. And yes, I fully admit this was maybe just a little bit mean. I used to love handing someone a glass, having them close their eyes and say, hey, you want some milk? But it wasn't milk, it was orange juice. Now, keep in mind, they liked orange juice, but the second they took that first sip, the face they made, oh, it was priceless. Disgust, confusion, betrayal, all in one twitchy expression, because when your brain is geared up for that cold, creamy smoothness, and instead it gets a splash of acidic citrus, it's not just your tongue that is thrown off. Your brain totally short circuits. See, your brain is basically a high-speed prediction machine. It's constantly guessing what's next, using past experience, context clues, and mental shortcuts. And when something matches those predictions, boom, dopamine. That's the brain's little nailed it moment. But when reality swerves, when your mouth says milk incoming and your taste buds yell sour alert, that's called expectation disconfirmation, and it does not feel good. It's not just the flavor, it's the psychological betrayal. That prank, that is exactly what Crystal Pepsi put in a bottle. And let's be clear, people weren't mad that it was weird. They were mad that it lied to their brain. You see, Pepsi, you expect caramel-colored cola, something bold, familiar, a little fizzy. but what poured out looked like Sprite and smelled like a Yankee Candle. And that mismatch created chaos. So what's the lesson for your business? It's really simple to say, harder to do. Don't just ask, will people like this? Ask, what will people expect this to be, and build from there. Because if you don't set expectations clearly, your audience will make their own assumptions and you might not like what they assume. Just look at the much more successful promotion from one of Pepsi's sister brands, Lay's, and their Do Us a Flavor campaign. When you crunch into a salty Lay's potato chip, do you expect to be met with the flavors of bacon mac and cheese? West Coast truffle fries? Cappuccino? Probably not, but these flavors weren't meant to be classics. They were conversation starters, edible dares that turned a snack into a story. Lay's tapped into our novelty bias. We're wired to notice what's strange and unexpected, and with limited time flavors, they layered in scarcity too. It wasn't about perfect taste. It was about framing the chip as an experience, a little weird, a little fun, and totally shareable. Which makes me wonder, what if it had originally been called Crystal by Pepsi instead? That tiny shift changes everything. It lets your brain expect something new while still tying into the brand. It promised something iconic, and instead, it was weird. Let's remember though, weird can win when it's intentional. So go ahead, be bold, be weird. Just be sure that the expectation is crystal clear, especially if you're Pepsi. Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. And as a little reward for sticking around, check out the Saturday Night Live parody, Crystal Gravy. It's linked below. It's gross, it's hilarious, and it's behavioral economics in the most disturbingly slippery form imaginable. I'm Melina Palmer, and until next time, remember to be thoughtful. Even though that is like nerdy AF, are we okay with my like rollback? Me.